Good morning, welcome to Peace Rocks and Garden. Thought I would do up a quick video, well maybe it's not going to be quick, but a video of my workstation that I built. It's probably version 10.0 by now, but want to share it for those of you that don't have the budget or the access to the big machines or the machines you can buy to do lapidary work, if you can call it a do lapidary. But I do enjoy rock hounding. I do enjoy processing some of the rocks that I find into different things. So I've created this little workstation to allow me to explore my hobby. Turn the camera around, and this is the little beast in a nutshell. Had to use my coat to block the sun or the video would be totally washed out, so I apologize for that. But it is a challenge. Up here in the north, I'm in northeastern British Columbia, Canada, to be able to get materials, machines, whatnot. The cost of shipping often is greater or equal to than the cost of the item you're ordering if it doesn't come from something like Amazon Prime. So not a good thing, it certainly doesn't make it affordable, which is the primary purpose of my channel, really, in the rock end of things, because you got to get creative, or at least I get creative, because I'm not going to spend that kind of money. This is the heart and soul. The other problem is because we're up here in the north, again, we're challenged with low population. When you're living in the larger centers or in the southern part of Canada, like Ontario, you have lots of people around, so there tends to be more things available in marketplace or whatever. Up here, again, low population, tough to find. So your basics, like the heart and soul of this machine or this station, is that a wet dry grinder. In my opinion, it is important to have a wet dry grinder. Obviously, it's not hooked up to the hose because it'd come flying out there, give me a shower, which I don't want. But it is important to have in my opinion, wet dry, not just to have, the water. It's this component. And this is what protects. Oh, the furnace is about to kick in, so I apologize. It's gonna get noisy. Let me just turn it off for a sec. There we go. Yeah, this is, in my opinion, very important. You can use your regular grinders to run something like this, but they don't have this. And dealing with water and electricity in close proximity, pretty important. This will trip if you have a short for whatever reason. You should not get electrocuted. I say should not because, there's always the chance, I suppose, but I want to enjoy my hobby, not die from it. Pretty important. The second most important thing, obviously, is the water. There's a little tiny pump there. I recycled that from a broken little water fountain. You can also buy them on Amazon. They are cheap. They're between 20 to 40 bucks, depending on the flow rate you want. But that's what that is, and that basically brings the water around through that hose on. I just have a little drip valve that goes onto the wheel. It flows down through here, down a tube into here. I just emptied this out, so there's not a lot of water in it now, but typically what I'll do is I'm only in here on the weekends, so as I've processed rock and the water's gone through here, that settles out during the week, and so it's all clear, and then I just basically take a cup and put it back up there, and I'm not going through tons of water. The discs that I use, because this is a grinder, and you can buy these, they're pretty simple. They are on Amazon. I get the 50 through 8,000 packs. Depending on the pack you order, they range in price from 40 to 80 bucks on Amazon. Up here we get pretty quick deliveries, so I can get them within 2 days. I have spares. So basically, again, you have an angle grinder. You have this here. You basically screw that onto the back of the angle grinder, right there, right? You take your disc, plop it on there, do your grinding. On my system then I just transfer it over here so I know I'm done with it. And I grab the next one, rinse and repeat until I'm done processing the rock or whatever I'm doing. That's the heart and soul of it. Now you do need, of course, your personal protection in my opinion, because the grinder is loud. That is, I suppose, one nice thing about those fancy machines. They are quiet. This is not. So hearing protection, a must. Because I am dealing with lots of quartz and on the odd occasion agate, I do have my breathing apparatus to protect my lungs. Again, in my opinion, pretty darn important. I kind of like my lungs. So those are pretty much the two things that I use for PPE. Touching these discs, much like a diamond wheel that you do for the trim saws and such, the only thing I can say about this that's a risk is because you can see they've got a little bit of a you can catch your nail if you're close to the edge, and it sometimes might, you know, just chip your nail, but you can touch these as it's running. Not a big deal. I haven't cut myself, I haven't ripped my finger apart, and I've been using this for a year now, so overall I think it's relatively safe. I do have it on a 45-degree angle just for me, for ergonomics. I find that the best because I sit when I'm doing this, so I find that that's the best angle for me. The next thing that I feel is pretty important about the station is this, the magnifying lens. Obviously light so I can see what the heck I'm looking at. So when you're working on a rock or what have you, like if you're starting on the lower grits, the hundreds, I do a lot of not flat work. Like I've polished this up. Now this is a piece of quartzite. It's not finished obviously, as you can see. It's got, but so when you're working on these, it's really important to, when you think you've done that particular grit, to dry the rock off. So I have a heat gun that I use for that because I'm just impatient trying to do it with paper towel. Also you go through a ton of paper towel or what have, so I use my heat gun to dry the rock off, because when you have irregular surfaces and you're working your rock or whatever you're doing and you're grabbing your edges on that grit, if you miss a little section, so like I said, I clean this off, I dry it off, you can tell then, well, if you know where all that grit has actioned, if you will, or worked the rock. If you've missed a spot, you'll have a flatter a duller surface, or a surface that looks different, so that you know then you got to go back and work that section to ensure that before you go to your next grit stage, you've hit this rock with all the area. You can't do that with a wet rock. It just doesn't show. So drying it off is pretty important. And then being able to look through this, because on the higher grits, the scratches and such get a lot fainter, hard to see. This I built just a little while ago, added to it. I was watching currently rock hounding, and he had built himself a carpet wheel. So I figured, hey, that looks cool, let's try it out. But I didn't have a motor and the pulley systems, but I did have a polisher. So I figured, well, I don't use it, why don't I try and repurpose it for this? So that's what I've done. So it's your basic, this is your basic polisher pad. You know, you got a 7-inch polisher, you throw on your polishing pads. So it is variable speed. I just created these here. It's basically a piece of wood, glued carpet to it. But and on the channels that I was watching, different people use different materials to try and polish. So I figured I'd give them all a go. You've got hard leather, soft leather, you've got suede, I've got carpet, and felt. And basically all I did was put some Velcro straps on, put it on there, turn it on, and away you go. But I'm not entirely convinced it's working as good as it should, or as what I think. Maybe the speed's still too high. I use cerium oxide for the carpets. The leather you're supposed to do dry. But I think with my 8000 wheel, I get as good a polish, it seems, that with the cerium oxide on really hard items. Like, it's pointless to try and use cerium oxide on some of the softer materials, in my opinion, and expensive. So I use the cerium oxide. I have been using this for the agates, for some of the pieces of quartz that I use, or whatnot. But not fully convinced that's working as well as it should be. I think that's basically the workstation in a nutshell on what I use it for. So I suppose the question you're probably asking is, well, how good does it really work? And for my purposes, I think it works very well. And also for the price point, frankly. Like, I mean, you can buy fancy cabochon machines, and not even fancy cabochon machines, when you're spending thousands of dollars on the machine, and then of course you have the wheels you have to replace, or if it doesn't come with the wheels, buy, if you buy a proper flat lap, pardon me, again, you're looking at thousands of dollars, and then you have all the flat lap grits, and then you got to replace them, which is an issue because you have to order those from suppliers, so you're paying shipping, where those I can order on Amazon Prime and not pay nothing except for the price of the item. So again, for me up here, pretty important deal. I think truly, if you were to price point this out, so the only thing that I actually paid money for aside from the pads was the used wet dry grinder, and I paid $120. So if you really wanted to be honest about it, I paid $120 plus the material, which was all recycled. So in truth, that was zero. But if you were to buy one of those new, they're $600. That's $80. That's like $40. So the grinder, I think most people can find those used. So $120, $200 at the most. All in, you're probably looking at $250. Pretty reasonable for what I think this machine can do. So again, does it work? Does it give a good shine? Yes, in my opinion. I haven't, and I don't sell anything at, online or at hobby stores or at shows. This is purely for my enjoyment at this point. I may get into the wrapping and such down the road. I'm not there yet. But what I do make and stuff and I give to friends are palm stones, and I have made some just raw cabochons, and they came out okay. As I was showing earlier, this one here is kind of the material I use also, like this one here, it's a material that you can see there's a fracture along here. They're not perfect. There's a fracture along the quartz here, so you're not going to get this perfect smooth surface. You can feel there's a small little bump there, but the shine, for the material, like the quartz itself gleams. This, and I'm not even sure what this is, frankly, for the material, but you get a pretty nice shine to it and smoothness to it when you are dealing with, for instance, this here is a quartzite that when I had the rock raw, and I did cut it, you can see the two faces there, but you couldn't see any of the layering. Now, quartzite's sandstone compressed into into a quartz material. I don't know the full process. I just know it gets squeezed and converted, metamorphosed. But pretty cool. But you couldn't see any of this. It just looked brown. So I thought, oh, pretty brown rock, I'll shine it up. Well, lo and behold, once I started polishing, and as you can see, it's got a pretty nice sheen to it. Now, quartzite, because it's a larger granuled, like it's not a microcrystalline unit, it's hard to get a really like mirror finish. But I think, as you can see the lights in there, and under the perfect conditions, you can actually see my reflection. So I think, again, using the 8000 wheel, it does a pretty good job. I don't have the cabochons that I've made. I've given those away, but overall I do think it's pretty successful for what I use it for. I think that's it. So basic workstation. I think most people could want something like this together, you know, with a screw gun, some screws, and some wood. A little bit of ingenuity on how you want to set it up for yourself ergonomically, and that's it. You can enjoy, you know, processing rocks you collect, or if you so choose, buy. Please leave comments below if you see something here that you think could be improved, especially that. I really would appreciate some comments on maybe how to improve that, or maybe something I'm doing wrong. Would be super cool. So again, thanks for watching, and we will have a video later. Bye now.